I want to talk to you about AI music, Suno, and people's opinions about it. There's lots of people that really, really hate AI music. And I understand why. If you're a musician, you understand that the learning curve for music is quite steep. First, you've got to learn an instrument, you've got to buy an instrument, you've got to learn the instrument, then you've got to, you've got a practice regime. Then you've got to find other people, like-minded people who you can, work with, um, and gather around, either cover songs or gather around original songs. So, and then, once you gig these or get these songs together in a practice room or whatever, then you're maybe taking them to the stage as well. Then getting recordings is the next thing on the agenda. So before, you had to get all of these bodies collected around songs, and the songwriter was a jack of all trades. He had to have knowledge of recording and mastering, and it had to be socially smooth and convincing other people to do covers of the tracks. So all of these things are redundant now with the advent of Suno. You don't need anybody else as a songwriter. All you need is your instrument and Suno itself. And the vocals and arrangements that Suno pushes out are absolutely brilliant. Could they be better? Of course they could be better. There's no much stereo width on Suno tracks. There's no much double tracking and things like that. There's no much in the way of things like that on Suno. But if you look at it holistically, from the whole process, the results that you're getting are phenomenal. There's no errors on it. Like, usually you'd be multi-tracking a band, you'd be doing composite takes, trying to get the singer while they're fresh, all of that sort of stuff. Now, these things are consigned to the bin now. It's nice to play with other people. I play with other people. I like jamming. I like socialising with musicians. But, trying to curry people's favour, you don't need to do that now. You've got a handy helper in Suno, which is like a savant. You give it an idea and it takes it to the next level. Now, before, your publisher would help you do this. Book your recording time and try and get your demos, shoppable demos. And getting a shoppable demo using the old way of doing things is very difficult. So much can go wrong. Things can go wrong in the recording process, ground loops and all of these things. Now, I used to be a studio owner. So knowing the dynamics of a studio, how they operate, and, how much work it takes to make a demo, it's like Christmas for me, using something like Suno. Very quickly, you don't need to gather a lot of bodies around an idea anymore just to get a demo. Between your instrument, your voice, and Suno, you can come up with shoppable demos in 8 seconds. It's that quick and it's that good. Now, I've handed it full stems and you know, its ability to decode what it is that's happening in the track is incredible. Now, I can see why people are pissed off because the learning curve before was so steep. You know, you had to learn how to record, you needed to learn, you know, how to play, you needed to get session people in, you needed to get, you know, sometimes a master, an engineer, if it was good enough. And all of these things took time. They took time, they took effort, it cost, you know, even rehearsal rooms cost money. So just getting a track up to scratch, you know, being able to record that, the amount of rehearsals that had to be done beforehand is, you know, a consideration. So, you know, you had money in practice rooms, practicing out the songs, you know, finding the right lineup, getting the right bass player, the right guitarist, the right keyboard player, the right singer, you know, all of these things. And they all needed to be huddled around an idea and a track. And now that's not the case. One man with a guitar and a voice can sing out a quick melody, you know, do a quick scratch pad idea, and within 8 seconds, you've got a shoppable demo of a track using Suno. So, you know, I think it's absolutely incredible. I love it. You know, I don't hanker for going back to the long-winded way of doing things as a musician. I think recording used to be so time-consuming that it sometimes took the fun out of playing music. You know, I love jamming. I love jamming with other musicians. I love socialising with other musicians. Love all of that stuff. But Suno has taken all the hard graft out of the process, and it's brought the joy back to me for songwriting. Of course, you can have Suno write the song for you. I don't personally like that because I don't think its flow is very good. I think, you know, if you get a decent flow from like a decent rapper or a decent singer, a decent songwriter, a nice flow, I think the personal touch comes from the flow of a track. I think AI writing has got its place, but when it comes to music, I think it's better to give it a full idea and do it the traditional way. And because when you use Suno, it can change the words so dramatically that you're relearning your own tracks. So, you know, that's why I don't like doing it that way. I'd rather just give it the whole song and have it master it for me and put a really great vocalist on. That's how I use it. But I can see why everybody's pissed off. Studio owners must be raging about it. I don't have a studio anymore, so it doesn't affect me. But and remixers must be absolutely raging about it, and session musicians must be absolutely raging about it. So I can understand, you know, why everybody's pissed off. But you know, I'm a songwriter, singer-songwriter, and I love it. I think, you know, it's such a streamlined process, you know, from idea to demo. I think it's fantastic. Now, everybody thought that musician would be last one on the list when it came to automation. You know, that creativity was going to be the last bastion of humanity. It's turned out that music's been one of the first things to go with the automation everything. Now, seeing what Suno can do with music, this is going to happen with everyone. This is going to happen with lawyers, this is going to happen with doctors, this is going to happen across the board in everything. You can either be an early adopter of the technology and just enjoy it. Enjoy the fact that lots of the hard graft is being outsourced now. But when it comes to jobs, I can see why people are worried. So I've said my bit on AI, and if you could drop, some of your comments and tell me what you think of AI. I think it's fantastic. I'm really pleased with it. And I think it's a great way for musicians to share ideas quickly. I don't think that the person writing prompts and getting back tunes has a future in the business, because most of the money is in live performances now. And if you can't shop it live, then, you're not going to make any ticket money on the door. The streaming services and what have you, you might make money on streaming services, and there are such a thing as good programmers. I was listening to, Cyber Outlaw Blues, and they've got really hot tracks. I mean, they're so hyper compressed, but those vocals that are on the track, there's no way that you could do it live. The amount of bass that is in the vocal, it's a whisper, and the amount of bass that's in the vocal, doing that live is going to be nigh on impossible. You're talking about putting a booth on stage and isolating it, for the rest of the instruments, because there's so much bass in all the different tracks. And if you were on stage doing it, the amount of rumble that would be coming through the mic would be, unbelievable. So I don't think that sort of thing's going to take off as, a band. It's not going to take off as a band, but as a dance tune, sure, why not? As a dance tune, it's the cyberpunk blues. It's all over TikTok now. Absolutely banging and hot as hell, where the production's concerned, because it's no real. It's like synthesizers. When you use synthesizers, you can get, bone-shaking bass out of synthesizers. And same with the synthetic voices, you can get, lots of bass coming out of the voice, which you can't do live. The amount of rumble that you get is just, nigh on impossible. You're having to put low cuts on things, to stop feedback and what have you. And, the cyberpunk stuff that I've been listening to online, not the type of thing that a band is going to be able to perform live. But as a club banger, I just didn't see what the problem is. It's no traditional music, it's AI music. And AI music, I think, has a place in the world. I don't think it's going away. And I think people that complain about it have got a lack of imagination. Not everybody's going to be an acoustic superstar, and not everybody's going to be, making club bangers. There's room in music for many, many styles, and AI is just another style of music, and it's here to stay. Anyway, like I said, drop the comments, tell me what you think of AI. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. And I think the world is going to be all the better for it. The struggle of the musician is over. Trying to shop their ideas, trying to get people focused around one track to try and get it done. Like I said, the days of having to beg are over, and I think it's a day to celebrate.